All right, so this last video, we're going to talk about why the documentary that I selected for you, why that was a reliable piece of information. And it goes back to a lesson we did in class a while back, and it's about media consolidation, or the idea that 90% of everything most Americans read, watch, hear, see, or consume in terms of information in any way, shape, or form is owned by 5 different companies. And this was a presentation that we looked at when we first did this. It's going to take me a second just to skip ahead for a second through that lesson. But the idea with consolidation means bringing things together. And in terms of the media, most media Americans see has been brought together by 5 different corporations. And those corporations are owned by 5 different individuals. And as we talked about in class, those individuals aren't bad people. In fact, one of them kind of looks like Pete Carroll. But he's not Pete Carroll. Another one of them definitely doesn't look like Pete Carroll, and he's definitely not Pete Carroll. But these are genuine, decent people, but the thing that these people all have in common is their goal is to make money. That's it. Their goal is to make money. They don't set out to inform or educate anyone. If they do that as a byproduct, if they do that as a way to make money, that's good. They like doing that, but their goal is to make money. Because of that, most of the information we end up getting tends to be fairly surface level. Tends to be that kind of information where most of the time what most people see leads to those common misconceptions that you think people have when you were doing your planning sheet. It's because we see very brief, similar messages repeated over and over and over again in media that lead people to think certain things even though they might not be true. So you can see as we go throughout the rest of these companies, these are the companies that own 90% of everything all Americans read, watch, see, or hear. Now the thing that you looked at, the documentary you looked at, was different. The documentary you looked at was made by PBS. PBS is public broadcasting. They're not funded by commercials entirely. They do show commercials sometimes, very rarely. But most of the funding they get is from people who donate money to them with no strings attached, and the government. Our tax dollars go to support PBS. It goes to support PBS and it goes to support NPR, National Public Radio. These are 2 of the largest media outlets that have nothing to do with making money. Now they try to make enough money to stay in, in business. They try to make sure people are watching, but the goal of the things that they make is to educate people, not just to entertain people. Whereas most other media outlets, most other TV shows, most other channels, if they educate someone, they're like, great, that's cool, but we really want to make money. PBS looks at it differently. PBS's goal is to educate people, and if people are entertained, great, that's awesome. We want them to be entertained, but we really want to educate people. That's why a lot of the shows on PBS are super boring, because they're not made just to entertain you. They're also made to teach you things. Now they do have some shows like Downton Abbey, which I personally think is super boring, but other people I know really like. But most of the stuff that they make is made to teach you things. And the documentaries you watched were made by PBS. And if you look up PBS's funding, you can find all the information about where they get their money. They get their money from donations. They get their money from the government, from tax dollars. We fund PBS. We pay for it, and in turn it's supposed to give us information and teach us things. So that's why the information you got was more reliable than the information most Americans get that form those common misconceptions.